I work with people in the council. Here's some true stories. I've worked with several people in the council who run private businesses on council time. One guy was a DJ at weekends. All he did sat next to me was answer his phone about bookings and stuff like that. I know someone else who was a landlord, had 3-4 properties. He spent all his time sat in the office sorting out maintenance, sorting out new renters. And this goes on all the time. I knew somebody else who, anytime they needed flyers for their weekend business, would use all the council printers. This goes on all the time.
So if you were elected to Parliament and then over the course of the next couple of years became the Prime Minister, which could happen, how would you fix that? If you were responsible, it's an interesting question, isn't it? If you were responsible for the public's, and you are standing for public office, so you're prepared.
If I win, I'm going to be doing it in Oldham.
If you win, you're going to do it. So how, if you win in Oldham, how will you make sure the people who work for the public sector or the council in Oldham, I don't know what your powers would be, but how could you fix that? Because that's a big problem to fix.
It is. We start, and the only power I've got is press attention. So I would start by highlighting the problems to the press and to the public, and that's how we start. We need to get the average guy in the street angry about how much waste and incompetence there is in the public sector. So when I'm saying to people, I'm going to get people who work in the public sector in Oldham to whistleblow to me. So in the NHS, probation, the council, and say,
and that would be things like, there's a bloke who sits next to me who's on the phone all day for his...
Yeah, and also, we've just spent 50 grand on pencils, and now we've got enough pencils in Oldham Council now for 9 years.
Yeah.
Oh, who ordered them? I want to hold people accountable, but I don't have direct influence over those organisations, but I can raise those issues, A, in Parliament, B, to the Chief Exec, and demand answers, and I'll get answers because I'm an MP. But my secret power is just highlighting it all and embarrass people. Yeah,
it's interesting. I don't know if you watched the political debate. I think there were 5 or 6 parties there.
Yeah. I didn't watch it.
When they were talking about I don't blame you. Yeah. When they were talking about the NA, I am strangely being drawn to these programs because I am genuinely interested in the political dynamics here. But they asked about the NHS, and everybody except Farage said you need to the government hasn't put enough money in. Now Farage said the NHS is broken.
NHS is broken, and
we need a new model.
Yeah.
And we'll come to the audience in a minute, but that didn't go down well. But I thought, you're spot on here. You're spot on. This waste. This isn't about more money. This is about this place running efficiently. Basically.
If the NHS was a good model, why has no other country ever copied it and repeated it?
Yeah.
No country's ever done it.
No.
Because it was good when it was better than nothing when it started 100 years ago. It was like, oh, this is good. Within several years of it starting, the reports say they already knew it was going out of hand. Within several years, they stopped dental treatment because it's like, we can't afford any of this. It just started ballooning almost from day one because there's always something new coming along that you can spend money on for treatments and for drugs and stuff like that. The whole thing is run appallingly. Half my family work for the NHS. They tell me stories all the time. But we're at a stage at the moment, a bit like we were 5 years ago, where you daren't criticise any immigrants because you'd be a racist, but we've got over that now.
Yeah.
And NHS, the criticism of NHS started a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
We're slowly getting there. The NHS is not fit for purpose. The NHS is not affordable. The NHS doesn't work.
Yeah.
But no mainstream politician wants to say that because they perceive it to be a vote loser. And it might be a vote loser. But what we're waiting for the whole thing to collapse because it's getting close to collapsing.
Yeah.
It doesn't produce anything we want. You can't get doctor's appointments. You can't get operations.
Is it 8 million on the waiting list now? Something ridiculous.
Something like that. So I'm glad Farage mentioned that.
Yeah.
But what happens when we talk about the NHS is straight away the defensive mechanism is, you want an American type.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
The American type is different
Yeah.
But it's just as bad as ours for a lot of people who can't get it.
Yeah.
So I don't want the American type. Let's look across the pot. Let's look across the channel and let's look at France and Germany.
Farage mentioned France and Germany. He mentioned apparently the model in France works very well, which is that if you have a certain level of income, you have to pay for something. But if you don't, then so it there's a kind of insurance thing basically. Yeah. But he said it works very well, and it's managed by the private, But also, interestingly, I think Labour has started talking about that recently, about getting the private sector more involved, which is a massive shift for Labour.
Blair started the privatisation of the NHS. He was the first one to introduce private contracts into the NHS. So Labour are not against it per se. They're just against talking about it just before an election.
Yes.
Did you like that video? I think you did. Hit the bell. Give it a big thumbs up, comment, and don't forget I'm standing for election in Oldham East and Saddleworth. So please share this video, speak to your family and friends if you live in Greater Manchester, and if you live in Oldham East and Saddleworth, make sure you vote for me. Catch you soon.